Masalon, Masalon, Masalon. Allah. Love and wisdom to all. Be dropping the link early. The link is posted. All right. Asalom, Asalom, Asalom. Who are the black people? So, in connection to where black people are from, who were they before being contacted by any other people? So when I take us to the first civilization, that's what that means. Uncontacted by any forms. And so black people are the indigenous people. Let's see. They search room. Let's put some little images. Now, when we're talking about indigenous people, black people are indigenous by nature. You descend from indigenous people by nature. You know, they like to keep us very unknown. So it'd be very hard to find the ancient pictures. See, these are indigenous people, but these are being contacted. The colonizers have contacted these people. we trying to look for the people that are uncontacted.
Okay.
See, and those lighter people come from those darker people. Indigenous people are the darker species just on the planet looking different. Uncontacted. Just see your ways are different. You have your own identity. So we talking about a first civilization before we wasn't even trying to make things like this, called a camera, to take pictures. But these other species make cameras, and then they take pictures. This is what they are rendering as uncontacted Black indigenous. This is how they've been hijacking everything.
That's right.
But now you finna know the truth on everything. So that's a Peruvian tribe. Well, it's a place where they're known for actually not allowing any foreigners on the land right now. And they look more like this. Now, these are indigenous people. That you will look like when I say you descended from indigenous people. But they want you to understand that if you ever was to find that you are indigenous and that you descend from indigenous people, they want us to believe this is who we were. Now, these are indigenous people uncontacted by, let's just say, white peoples. And they actually defend their island from white people.
They sure do.
We've seen the documentary.
I've seen it. Can't wait to look at it.
Yeah, and it's a whole island that you had to be in the air or something to get these type of photos. So you see, this is how indigenous people start being contacted.
There you go. There you go. Here comes trouble.
By foreigners. This is who we call aliens.
Uh-huh.
They in it. You think about a tribe seeing a plane flying over them, taking pictures. That looks like something foreign.
That's right. And that's correct.
That's an alien.
That's correct. That would be that to us. And that's the way they looked at it. And may I say this, that all during school, if you notice in words, they will ask you where you're from, and then they use that word alien. Are you from another country? Are you from here? And they would do that. So they were using the word alien right then and there on paper at a young age to you. And they were them all along. I get it.
That's what indigenous people call foreigners, aliens. This is what our ancestors called foreigners, aliens. So the first contact to uncontacted Black indigenous people, this is the first use of contact, food. This is how the alien gets the indigenous people. After this food is being given, it'll lead to clothes. So when you see darker skinned indigenous nations having clothes, they have contacted these people, being contacted by these aliens. And these aliens are people. So we got to understand the step of colonization, but it's really called Americanization. So they was Americanizing indigenous people. So how did the dark get light? Mixing with the alien.
There you go.
So through that understanding is how you get the core. So we get these half indigenous people, not pure. So we finna go back to a time before all of this right here. Before white man aliens smiling in our face. Look at them capturing indigenous people now. Zooming in. That's what they be doing with their new technology.
Yeah.
You see any mix? Is that pure?
That's pure, man.
It still exists.
It still exists.
And this is what you from. You from a pure indigenous.
That's right.
Not mixed, not stained, not grafted.
Yeah.
Not varnished, not dyed. So, and that's how we get our subject matter. That's the divine people. The divine Black people, they don't want you to know name Morale. Now the difference between that, what we just seen as the imagery, and the morale, we wasn't like that. We was the civilized, indigenous. So let's just say in our eyes, into looking from their eyes, us having the grandeur, this is where you get the white from and the Black from in its core essence. Civilization versus still indigenous. Building up out of the indigenous into a full-blown civilization.
Yeah.
So what we're looking at here, that's not a full-blown civilization. See, and that's what the alien looking to do anywhere he touched.
There you go.
But see, where he learned his civilization from ain't from these people. These are indigenous people. He learned this civilization from a history he wanted to erase from us. And he wanted to Americanize and take the land of our ancestors and rename it to the land of his ancestors. So America is the land of his ancestors. It was originally named Marab before contact. Our ancestors were not uncivilized. The Marab was the most ancient people and the first civilization that we will say now that was before America. Before America was thought of, the land was already here, and the ancient people on the land was Marab. And instead of finding indigenous people when they came here, they found civilization. Meaning we know how to read, we know how to write, we know how to build, we know how to architect. We had a full society of knowledge and wealth. And we talking before even a ship would build for an alien to fly or sail on. Before the first cornerstone of a pyramid of Giza was laid. We talking before any of your so-called sacred texts that you revere, that is known now as the Bible and the Quran. Before those things came into existence, the moral was already the human self flourishing, divine and indigenous, divine and natural. And this is the history that was covered up. You'll never be told this on your history channel. You won't be told this in your history class. This name is divine, and anything that's divine hold weight. So this is what Noble Drew Ali was leading to as more. This is what later date becomes a new invention by Americanization, MOOR. And that word don't belong to us. It wasn't designed by your ancestors. That's why it don't belong to you. Your ancestors came up with the phonetic spelling of MARAB. That's what it is, and that's what it was. Any rendering, any adding, any subtracting is no longer true and authentic. So any form of corruption to the original true name and intent is all invalid and have no legal binding. This is the name that ties you to your land. So as this was referred to as more by Noble Drew Ali, this was referred to as the original Asiatic black man by Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So the first man represent the first people. The most ancient people is the Morab. And we need to understand there was no other civilization. What you were so-called in America, your land was where the first civilization was and is, because it's first. That's the divine order.
There you go.
All these other worlds exist, but this was the first civilization. With full knowledge of self, where you hear the thorough knowledge of self, was the morale. Now I'm showing you this. Now I'm going to relate you to something you did know, but you didn't know. So why does Abraham have two names when you open to read the Bible? When reading upon Genesis, you will find the story, which is not the true story, but these are remnants of those people stealing your civilization, taking it elsewhere, and starting civilization and starting to civilize the uncivilized. So back when we seen the alien bringing the food to the indigenous, they will be offsprings of that civilization. People who were civilized. And now they're going to civilize others that are indigenous. But you have to know that civilization comes from them destroying the history of us, renaming it, relanguaging it, and saying it's theirs. So this is why we got books like the Bible and the Quran. But we're going to figure out why Abraham. There's a point in the Bible story that God changed Abram's, it say Abram's name, not Abraham. It said Abram's name to Abraham. Well, Abram meaning exalted father, Abraham meaning exalted father of a multitude. So it wasn't a change in nature, it was a change in character. Now we want to understand why change in name if the nature didn't change. See, because this is very important. Abraham, as a sign of his covenant, signifying that despite being old and childless, he will make him the patriarch of many nations with the added letter He, part of God's name, symbolizing this promise of fruitfulness and divine presence. This name change mark a new identity and future for them in God's plan, establishing them as the spiritual ancestors of countless people. This has nothing to do with DNA mixing with other DNAs. We are spiritual ancestors.
That's right.
We've been there, done that. Got the t-shirt. Spiritual ancestors. We came before all these. When it comes to doing what they doing, writing books, having holy text, speaking a language, creating environments, that's old to us. The Marab Ben did that. And it's recorded before they even can find thou. Let's put it that way. So what the question we want to ask is, what does Abram mean? See, and this is where we get this word, Marah. This is when you have to be a scribe and a scholar
To know it, yeah.
to know what's going on language-wise and linguistically, and the power of lettering.
Yeah, good.
Because Abram was a code word. It was a corruption of the word Marah. You can make the word Abram from the original true word, the first word, Marah.
Sure can, I see it.
So that person who was Abraham was Marah. Representing the most ancient people. Now we're going to show you how Marah was never America. That the Americans who came here named it America. Oh, this is going to get extremely beautiful. The Marah are the people of the great forests and lakes. Where does the picture show you indigenous people be by?
Go back to that picture with it. Yeah, right there. And another thing I noticed that the invader and the enemy always do. He loved to depict the dark-skinned people with spears and arrows, and so that's the only thing they ever did or could manifest or whip up. Is a spear and arrow. And I'm glad you pointed this out, because now they're seeing the bigger picture. The ones that more wiser than just holding up a spear and an arrow.
Right. I'm glad you're saying what you're saying.
I'm glad you pointed that out, because see, if they show you that and they have the camera, They plant an image in your head.
Image in the head. Just
And
like,
now everyone you see, this where you gonna think he came from.
mm-hmm. So when you think civilization, this is what civilization is. People see this as some of the great wonders of this world.
Mm-hmm.
Establishing wonders. Now this is in so-called Egypt. Now we're gonna learn about the Marab. The Marab is the first civilization and the bringer of knowledge and wealth to Egypt. If the civilizers didn't come to Egypt and leave their land to civilize the world so they can have what y'all see today, that didn't come from Egypt. That came from the Marab. And we're establishing, where did the Marab come from? Now we know the Marab is the Asiatic first black people. The original black man, cream of the crop. All the fancy things you heard. This is before a tribe of Shabazz. This is pure and the first. No contact, uncontacted by aliens and foreigners. So as we just established, Egypt was brought. All that resource you see was brought to Egypt. Who brought all those resources to said Egypt? The Marab. When you talking about hieroglyphics, who brought that knowledge to said Egypt? The Marab. Your stories of Thoth and the many natures of the Netters, who brought you that knowledge? The Marab. Earlier records than Egypt, recorded in Samaria, Mesopotamia, in cuneiform, wedged in clay. Who brought them that knowledge to be wedged? Who brought the resources? The Marab. Where you see the golden dome at today. I'm pulling up pictures today. Who brought them that knowledge to set all this beautiful, exquisite, that people don't know what they worship, knowledge and wealth? The Marab. Who was the Marab? Just pointed out. Abraham. Just pointed out. Abraham. The Marab is the people of the great forest and the great lakes.
Wait a minute.
So let's dive and say, where is the great forest located? Eastern United States.
What you say?
That's called America. So you mean the Marab is the original and America is the fake? Yes. America is the simulation overlaid over the Marab, the first civilization, the people of the great forest. These same people we seen shared all this knowledge with Syria, shared all this knowledge that you love in Egypt, all the knowledge in holy tablets, the Numa Elish, Gilgamesh, all that comes from knowledge that was brought to Mesopotamia, not originated. The foolishness, corruption originated in Mesopotamia, Egypt, Syria, which became territories for Babylonians. And Babylonians corrupted the pure knowledge that was brought. But how did it get its beginning? Through the spiritual ancestors of the Marab. So these people couldn't do it. People with spears and bow and arrows is not what we're talking about when I say indigenous. We're talking about the first civilization, the first civilizers, the conquerors of the seasons. Not of men. This is what not we did when we brought knowledge and wealth. We didn't go conquer self. That's what the alien, he didn't know what conquer self means. He went and started murdering people. This is how low, if you know about the 6 ounces of grafted brain.
That's right.
And those 6 ounces of grafted brain is in African nature, not in Marab nature. The first Arab is known as the pure Arab. The pure Arab, just put the M in front of Arab and you got the pure Arab, the Marab. The Marab Arab. This is what later date Romans and Christians took our M off of the Marab. And start calling you Arab. And so we keep that so you don't forget that. Marab Arab. the people of the great forests and lakes. So our issues comes from the names of our ancestors. Our business is done in the name of your ancestors. This is business 101. Your family name is your ancestral name. Your ancestral name is tied to language. Is what we're working our way into. We know all this fabulousness that they left a language for us. We get into it. So now, where's the Great Lakes?
Would you put Eastern United States back up there? Eastern. We'll see there. Yeah, that right there. I'm just curious that you have this topic up there. And somehow or another we become the West. The Western. Or the West. That's all. Somebody did a switcheroo of hanky panky. So that's a Eastern United States.
And now, where's the Great Lakes located? The Great Lakes is also in the United States. So this is what's been simulated over. This is what's been renamed, what I call Americanized.
Yeah.
Our ancestors not Americans. Our ancestors are Moral, the Moral. Yeah. And we're finna even get deeper as we have gotten with one man. That one man is Abraham, who God established a covenant with. So God established a covenant with the Moral. Who is the Moral? The people of the United States, the people so-called of the United States, the people so-called of America. But that's not the true name. Those are the fake names. The scammer names.
Oh, yes.
You know, the scammer got to use a scam name.
Look at this.
Them the scam names. We at the true and authentic, pure and original, having true origin. This is not hypothecated as America has been hypothecated. See, so the people who came here, they called Americans. I'm gonna say that again. The people who you know came off the boat and the people that fly in the planes. These people that came to our land are Americans. Our ancestors are not Americans. These Americans call themselves Christians. Now, if we was Christian, how would the Christians be calling us by not Christian. See, even before you was a Muslim, this is what they don't want you to know. This is what makes you a Muslim. You are the people of the Marab. This word Marab is more important than the word Muslim. Muslim come after why you a Marab. The Marab is not Christians. They was found here by Christians who called themselves Americans. See this word Romans right here? That's on number 4 at the end. From Arab. See, it tells us in number 4, let the truth be now revealed concerning the most ancient people known as the Marab, and the Arab to the Romans and Christians. That word Romans in today's time is American. So to the Americans who call themselves Christians, they call the Marab Arab. They're not Christians. They're not Jews. The Marab are not Christians nor Jews. So they could not be true Christians or they could not be true Jews. So black people are not true Jews, nor are black people true Christians. Black people are the Marab. This existed before a Christian existed.
That's right.
This existed before a Muslim existed.
That's right.
Most people don't still understand why they are called Muslim. Muslim. And we can work our way to that. How much time we got? Let's see, can we get it in?
Definitely time.
Let's see. So we done found out the Marab are the people that live in the land that have the Great Lakes. The Marab are the people that live in the land that have the Great Forests.
That's right.
The Marab are the people who live in the land of the seasons.
That's correct.
The Marab were masters. Our fathers and mothers, you could say forefathers, you could say foremothers. But make sure you put masters. Because we ain't talking the spear carriers. We ain't talking the Bible totals.
That's right.
We talking about were masters. Of self-knowledge. Knowing the self was the language and the order of the day. So all that, what you would know as sacred geometry, that comes from the Marab. Now, how does Abraham tie in to Marab? Now, look how that name would have been Abram. Let me go back so you can see it. That name in corrupted form would have been Abram. And it's a restored true value from the first origination by the ancestor themselves. We have it restored in its correct original form. Marab. This is the 54th name. Of the Al Sufyan. So Abram's name was changed to what? Abraham. So Marab you have for Abram, you have Marab, and now we got on the screen Abraham. The true understanding of why God gave Abraham the covenant. So let me say it in another way. The true reason why God gave the Marab the covenant. Original black people as the Marab or Abraham was. Abraham was the first to honor not just any covenant, but the covenant of the divine creator. Allah. Not just any God. The God of Allah. So this is what they talking about with the covenant that God established with Abraham. The covenant was to cease the practice of sacrificing animals and children. Truth just being revealed. In these false texts, they have Abraham practicing sacrifice. In the Bible, in the Quran.
That's right.
And in fact, he had an honor. He was the first, no one else. He was the first to honor the covenant. This is why he was said he was upright, perfect. Now you seeing behind the scenes to the reason why he stopped and never did. From that, he was the bringer of divine law. The Marab took a covenant with Allah. To stop killing animals and children for sacrifice. Stop that as a practice. So we're talking about that's that indigenous thing. So we're talking about civilization. Black people of a high civilization, a high culture, and then you got black people of a low indigenous status of no civilization, where they kill animals and sacrifice even their own children for food. But with Abraham, the Marab, all that stopped. So now the Marab, Abraham is the bringer of divine law. So the first law that his descendants knew was the law of Allah. That law of Allah was the bringer of divine law. The law was divine law. And Abraham, the Marab, took civilization. Abraham was the civilizer. To the lands outside of America that we no longer call America. It's called Marab. America is the scammer's name. If you want to stay in the scam and be scammed, you call things by the scam name. You want to be free and be true, you call things by their true name. It's just that simple. Civilizing the uncivilized was not done by Musa. That was done by Abraham the Marab. Musa didn't bring divine law to the lands. It was Abraham the Marab. Abraham the Marab was the first civilizer to the land. So if one honors the memory of Abraham the Marab and all his morals, then honor the covenant. What's the covenant? To stop killing animals and children for sacrifice as a practice. So if people participate in that, can they be a part of the covenant? Then it says honor the law. What's the law? The law of Allah, divine law. And honor the way of Islam. We know Abraham the Marab was not a Jew. We know Abraham the Marab was not a Christian. So what was Abraham the Marab? He was the way of Islam. And that's what we come to find out. What is the way of Islam? Abraham the Marab was an al-Sufyan. Abraham the Marab, known as the Hanif, is an al-Sufyan. So all the descendants who honors the memory of Abraham and all his descendants honor the covenant, honor the law, and honor the way of Islam. Only in al-Sufyan are you granted to live, as I will show you, as Muslim. Al-Sufyan is for those who wish to live as Muslims. So if you have been taught any other form of Islam without Al-Sufyan, it's a scam. It has no saving power. It has no divine authority, so it carries no weight. So to be a professed Muslim by the Quran, that is fake. That is false Islam. You are not a part of true Islam. Islam is as old as Allah himself. So as we go back to understanding Abraham the Marab, the Marabs follow Al-Sufyan Islam. We talking about the first high culture. And the high culture, guess what? In America. Before it became America, the Marab, the place you now know as America, was practicing Al-Sufyan Islam. Then these aliens came with their wicked practices of killing animals and children. And this is how Americanization, which is colonizing, began. So the covenant with Abraham, the Marab, was taken very serious by Abraham, the Marab, that he lived this his entirety of life. He rejected the wicked practice of killing animals rejected the wicked practice of killing children. Do not waste that which Allah has granted to you as food. Reject the corruption. Corruption, and the same word for corruption is Americanization. Reject the Americanization of law. Reject the corruption of law. Honor the way of Islam. Honor Al-Sufyan Islam. Honor Al-Sufyan Islam. To be a true practicing Muslim. So given by Allah unto Abraham the Marav was to end the ways of sacrifice of animals and children. No greater injury can be done to Islam than to kill an innocent animal or another living being in the name of Allah. Check this out. I got to put it in the terms 18. Thus, the Americans who hate Allah and who hate all of creation. Talking about the Americans, do still practice the sacrifice of animals and young children. The Americans do this. They do for power and control, knowing not the true origin of such practice. Nor do the Americans know the true name or nature of the demons to which the Americans worship. The American Christians do not, therefore, be tricked by the American upon the sacrifice of animals and the honor the name of Abraham the Marav in respecting Al-Marav. See, this is what's been the catch. You didn't know that you was to respect Abraham as Al-Marav. But they took it and flipped it and changed the important name to the least important name. So this is what is done by Babel. That's what's called Babel. Okay, so now we move forward to before you was called. Let me make that real clear right quick. With Abraham the Marav. The birthplace of Abraham the Marav is where you get the word Ubaru from. If you notice, it sounds similar to he be Ru. This is where you get the word he be Ru from. And he be Ru was the birthplace of Abraham. The birthplace of Abraham, he be Ru, is the founding of the people now known as Arabs. Who are the people now? So we know the truth. Who are the Arabs? The Maravs. This was the birthplace of the Maravs. So when you hear the word Arabia, it's talking about this original place, Ubaru, where you get Hebrew, which is the birthplace of Abraham the Moral. Abraham is the father of all Arabia and the East. Great Elder mentioned earlier the Eastern, you've seen it on the Eastern United States. We talking about when they say face the Qibla or face the Kaaba. The true word for that is facing al-Baqar. And that's facing the Moral. America, you would say, in modern times. Where we at, when they say America, they could say it's the West. But the Marab is the East, the true East. This is where you get words like morals. It comes from al and more, from al, more, raw, moral. So the highest people of morals was the al moral. Abraham, them. See, so now, after that, you have Musa. Known as Moses. These people are morals, not just prophets. What makes them great prophets is that they're morals. This is your ancient lineage of the Holy Grail. We ain't got to the language yet. So let's get into the language. Now, if you have Americans controlling the narrative, then you will have no understanding of how things really come to be. It will be reverse engineering of what was already true and pure. So if the American narrative tell you, they'll tell you that the language they speak is theirs. But the language that Americans speak is the Marab's language. Let me make that a little clearer. The Marab was the first English speaking Arab. Of course, we didn't call it English. But English today is the same thing. English is your language, not the Americans' language. The Americans have learned your native language. You just didn't know the language belonged to the Moral. So they hijacked it and claimed it as theirs. As Americans, they claim English. But English is the Americanized pronunciation of the Marab's language. Just like the Marabs follow the way of Islam, Al-Sufyan Islam, their language is Unjil. And Unjil represents holy. So holy language of the Marab is Unjil. Americanized, that become English. What is the Unjil? The Unjil is Hebrew. So the language you speaking as English is ancient Hebrew. It's from the first civilization. This is why all other nations, when they talk around you, it sounds like Babel to you. Bashala Paka, Jimmy Sheen Chin Sheen Bean, Shumano, Hozo, Fernando. Yeah. So we talking about this is how they got their birth of languages, from our symbol system that they later became called alphabets. The alphabet you have was the ancient runic system of Prophet Jeremiah. Back then, in that form, they call it Proto-Ogham. So the true Arab is not an Arab-speaking person. A true Arab is an English-speaking person. See the Americanization. You think an Arab speaks Arabic, when the Arab is the Marab, and the Marab speak Unjil, which is English. And this is the first. So this knowledge was so deep. This was taken to civilized lands. So when we're talking about the colonizer, no, this is not the colonizer's language. This is your language that he told you that was his language. Because he wiped the history out of the people to never be revived. So this is why you powerless if you feel powerless. It's why you feel lack if you don't have abundance. This is why you feel like you have no inheritance when you have inheritance. You've been Americanized out of it. And you believe the American way. When in Rome, do in Rome is the same thing as when America do as an American. We not Americans. We the Marabs. Al Sufyan, descendants of Abraham the Marab. And so, just to put the finishing touch on how you know, because all the scammers will tell you the Marabs smoke cannabis. If you don't like cannabis, don't worry about this. You're not a Marab. The Marabs, they smoke cannabis. It's in their way of Islam. Americans want to ban you from your own ancestral inheritance on your own land. And if you believe in the American way, or you have forgotten the names and issues of your ancestors, then you lose your inheritance. So that's how you know you got the scam version of Islam called the Quran, and you got the scam version of Islam called the Bible. The truth is here, in your original book, Black Man, was not called a Bible. Your original book, Black Man, was not called a Quran. All black people that are descendants of Abraham, their book is called Al Sufyan. Al Sufyan, the original book for the people of the land of the so-called under America. Abraham smoked cannabis. All the prophets smoked cannabis. Jesus included was a Marab. Moses was a Marab. I got the whole list of prophets if we needed to see and go there. But that'll be for another time and measure. But all prophets is from the lineage of the Son of Man. The Son of Man refers to the Marab. There is many men in the world. And most men ain't just and fair their whole life.
That's right.
They learn about it later in life. But we talking about being young and virtuous. coming up like Abraham.
Yeah.
The word Muslim didn't come from Abraham. Abraham is the moral. He was before a Muslim, before a Christian, before a so-called Jew. And so that's what we call our cannabis, do cannabis. The carnal. Musa is where you get the word Musalim. You get the word Muslim, or why you became Muslim is because of Musa. Those who follow Musa the moral were called Musalims. So before you had a fake scam name like Israelites, Israelites were followers of Musa. So when you see the followers of Allah by the different name as Yahweh, in the Americanized form, you would say Israelites. In the Marab, we say Yahuda, Al Yahuda. Yahuda was the followers of Moses. The followers of Moses, they became known as Musalims. Americanized, they became Israelites. See, so the Marab is before a Muslim, before a Muslim, before a Sheikh, before an adept, before a sultan. This is coming straight out the ancestral of the prophets. So this is where Allah, He be rule. So when we're talking about Allah spoke to Abraham, when Allah spoke to Abraham, that's where all of your myths was born from, based on a true story of what happened to Abraham. So what you known as the mystery system of the ancient Egyptians, this is what it was all about. How to get on the boat of Ra. How to get the holy name of Ra. So when we talking about the moral, we're talking about Allah, and you see the Al Ru. This is what you've been waiting for. This is what speaks to the self from within. You might have heard of the Ruach. This is what that is referring to. This is what got morphed and Americanized into Christ. And this is how Christians became Christians. Not because they was good and actually practiced virtue in the way of honor as the way of Islam, but as a belief system. To have a scam system of consciousness for people to believe in as they are conscious. But this is the knowing part. It don't guess, it's not inaccurate. This is the overall goal of what you're trying to discover while you're alive. What you're trying to tap into. What's going to give you ultimate satisfaction. This is also what they call the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is fake. There's never been a such thing as a Holy Spirit. That is an Americanization of something from the morale. So these are things you want to get to know very well in your existence. See, this is what the cannabis is for. And so this little place that we in, it used to be called Uberu. This is where you get the word European from. Europeans are not white people. Without Islam, without Al Sufyan, you will never understand. I can talk to you till I'm purple in the face. But white people are not Europeans and they know it. You are the true Europeans called the Morale. The Morals, Arab, Arabs. I don't know how greatly you can understand that, but I know you'd be greatly appreciated if you do understand. So if you do understand it, mhm, that's how everything has been hidden right in front of your eyes in plain sight. It's right there in English, your native language. And that's what we've been told, different things. So, I'm getting ready to close it up with this. Because if you don't get it and you don't read it and you're not writing it, Because this is the process. You won't know it. You live for a reason. So the joke's on you. As you've been revealed, how fast you get to it is on the Lord. But you've been revealed once you get to it. To play dumb, you cannot afford to be playing dumb any longer. So, Barah Abba, As-Salam, Allah.